Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Check Engine Podcast, the only podcast produced entirely by three winners of IMSA's Spirit of the Race Award from the 2015 Salen's 6 Hours of the Glen. My name is Nick. Across the way from me, behind the control panel, I've got our producer, Tristan. Good evening.
Diddly.
How are you doing, Tristan? And then flanking me to my left, as always, is our trusty pal, Andrew. Andrew, what's going on?
Man, I feel great. I'm really excited. This is going to be a very special episode, as are all our episodes, but we actually have something real to announce to people, and this is new. This is something exciting.
It's something exciting. It's something cool. If you tuned in looking for a professional automotive podcast, you tuned into the wrong spot. We are not pros. We do not work for any race teams. We do not write for any magazines or websites. We are simply just fans of cars. We are fans of racing. And we like to talk about it, and we want you guys to talk about it with us. And that's very, very important. And if you just give me a second to explain. So, you can find us on our website, checkenginepodcast.com. You can find out about us. You get links to our episodes, blogs from us that we post once a week. We have a direct email. You can go to inbox at checkenginepodcast.com, or if you have a specific issue with one of us in particular, you can use our names. So Nick, Tristan, or Andrew at checkenginepodcast.com. We're on social media. We're all over the place there. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please be sure to like and follow. If you do not like or do not follow, that's okay, but you may know someone who will enjoy us, so please share us as well. And this is something super important, everybody. Be a part of this discussion. We don't want to talk at you. We want to talk with you. Share your opinions, your thoughts on what we say. Give us ideas for episodes, a whole bunch of different things. Use all the social, use the email. We actually want to do an episode here coming up entirely of answering listener questions. They can be car questions, they can be racing questions, they can be questions just in general to us.
Like personal questions.
Personal questions.
I, for one, welcome personal questions.
It's open-ended, just whatever you want. And you may be asking yourself, oh man, when are they going to air that episode? Whenever we get enough questions.
Exactly. We need more interaction. Maybe it's a little bit on us. Maybe we haven't been engaging enough, so we're going to try to mix that up, make our posts a little more engaging so you guys feel more encouraged to get in on the discussion. But we really do want some talk coming back at us, some feedback and comments and all that good stuff. Anything you got, just send it our way.
Listen, if you don't like it and that's why you're not commenting, how are we ever going to get better if you don't tell us?
Exactly.
And if you do like it and you want to hear more of it, we don't know that either. Let us know.
That's the perfect point.
That's an absolute perfect point. So yeah, comment and feedback on the episodes, but also send in those questions. Because we want to do, and we think it's going to be really fun to do an episode of just straight listener questions all the way through. So again, you can slide into our DMs. You can
wide open, yeah.
Inbox us on Facebook. You can post on our wall. You can tweet at us, email us. However you want to get in touch with us, please do. If you just want to listen, you can find us on Google Play Podcasts. You can find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify and Overcast, Pocket Casts, and of course anchor.fm/checkenginepodcast.
We did just actually get a recent addition as well, courtesy of a notice from Anchor FM. We are now available on Radio Public.
Radio Public, all right.
So it'll be Radio Public, play.radiopublic.com/checkenginepodcast.
Moving up.
We will share the various links and things to that as we go along, but our influence is spreading.
We're getting slightly more famous.
Yeah.
All thanks to the listeners, though. That's the thing. When you guys listen more, we get promoted more automatically through anchor.fm.
And they know where those listens are coming from, so you don't need to share that or anything. Obviously, we would like to know kind of what resources are available and where we should send our focus, but all that's handled automatically. So just listen, comment, send us those questions, because we want to turn this into a dialogue and not just an audiobook.
Well, and of course, big thanks to the listeners who get us all of this cool new stuff, who are going to help us get more ideas, make it bigger, make it better. That's all the listeners, so thank you.
Absolutely. Tonight, what is on the docket?
Well, I said we have an announcement, and we do. I think we probably say we have new exciting episodes every week. I'm pretty sure I say I'm excited for the episode every week.
Yeah.
But this time, we really do have something that we've never done before. It's going to be a brand new experience for all three of us, because...
I'm a little nervous.
A little bit.
You know, the butterflies, don't know what to expect.
But the week this episode comes out, we are actually going to be going to a brand new racetrack. We're going to be going to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Track for the IMSA race. And I mean, it's totally new. We've never been there before. Mid-Ohio is an interesting track because IMSA's had it on the schedule before, then it disappears and it comes back, and this is a back year.
Yep.
So we wanted to take advantage of it while it's here.
Exactly. So we're going to go as our away race this year, and I think I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a classic course, been around for a long time. We'll get into some details of the course as we go on here, but yeah, something that it's kind of hit and miss every year. We're lucky they do the schedule announcement at Road America every year. We were actually there in person for it last year.
Yeah.
And we noted that
We're boys with Scott Atherton, president of IMSA.
Yeah,
We're boys.
I've spoken to him.
Yeah, we're boys.
But
What up, Scott?
the announcement for Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course came up, and Nick and I, the heads were whipping back and forth at supersonic speed, looking at each other like, we're going there, right? We're going there. We got to be going there. It's back. It's back, baby.
And also, because we road trip to these places, the fact that this one is not...
It's close, baby.
It's close.
It's
It's not a 15-hour drive this time. It's an 8-hour drive. So cutting our trip in half from last year. But so yeah, tonight is going to be a preview episode of what we're expecting for the IMSA weekend at Mid-Ohio. While we are there, we're going to be posting pictures. We're going to be going live from the track, live from the car, getting to the track, live from our, lodging, reaction from the day. We're going to be doing a lot of live interactive stuff over the course of the weekend, but we want to give you kind of a preview why we're so excited for IMSA, what IMSA is and why we love it, and also why we're so excited for this particular racetrack. But first, any news items or neat car news to start off with some traditional pace lap or two?
Oh my gosh, I actually don't have a single thing
No?
for either one.
I have one very short personal neat car news. Due to unforeseen circumstances, my 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee is back from the dead, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
A zombie Jeep.
Yep. The deal was I moved to my new car, and we'll talk about that in an episode, that whole process. And I gave myself a year to do something with the Jeep, or it was going to have to go. And we were coming up on that 1 year mark pretty soon here, and it actually was needed. We needed an extra vehicle, and kind of brought it back out of storage, and then got turned into, hey, it's going to be nice to have this extra vehicle around, so we have ourselves a project. You may also see some of that coming from the podcast, not just me personally. We'll kind of have updates on that. Look at this weird thing that fell off of it. Does anybody know what this is? Do we still need it?
Coming soon, 19 hours of trying to remove the same nut.
Exactly. It is a 2004 Grand Cherokee from Wisconsin. Mainly it is comprised of underbody rust and dog hair.
I'm never helping
So-
you. I'm never helping you again. So
So you may see some of that coming down the line. That's really my only neat car news. It's entirely personal, but I'm glad to have it back in action.
There you go. I got a quick one. It's not necessarily neat because the car itself is that neat. It's more of the almost unicorn status rarity, like the TDI that we were talking about a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago. I saw a Chevrolet SS,
wow,
like an actual
real one.
a real SS in the wild, like they quote unquote raced in NASCAR.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I was like, oh, look at that. I've never seen one without a Lowe's sticker on it at a racetrack. Like, this is actually kind of nice.
I've seen exactly one.
Yeah, we saw one at Road America.
Exactly one.
We thought it was an Impala.
That's right. Was
Yeah.
it? I can't remember. Was that a blue one?
It was white.
Oh,
Yes.
because I saw a blue one. So there's two now in our general southeastern Wisconsin area.
Cars only exist in our area if we have seen them.
That's really true. Though.
That's right. So if you're looking for a count of sales in our area, it's two.
Yep. Inclusive.
That's the best evidence I have. Is
Yep,
two.
it's two.
Yeah.
Two Chevy SSs have been sold in Wisconsin. I think that's pretty much it for me. Any big news stories or anything else, or should we just roll right into this?
I think we can roll right to the main topic tonight.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, we are going next week to see the IMSA WeatherTech Championship at Mid-Ohio. For those who are not familiar, this is the premier road racing, endurance racing series in North America. It was born actually out of essentially a merger. For a while, there was actually two major sports car championships going on in the U.S. And there was the American Le Mans Series, and then there was the Grand Am Series. And splits like this, it didn't work for IndyCar either. They never work. You're competing for the same fans. You're trying to get dates at these same racetracks.
tracks, yep.
Manufacturers have to decide which one are they going to support, or if they go both, then it's not nearly enough support for the competitors. So between the 2013 and 2014 seasons, they all sat down at a table, they ironed out their differences, they hugged it out, did a kumbaya sesh, and the IMSA WeatherTech Championship was born, which is a combination of both series. It's been great for everybody. Fans been increasing every year, TV viewership, online viewership, manufacturer involvement.
For someone who's watched both, that's the craziest thing. Is it's never as packed as NASCAR weekend, or even some of the IndyCar stuff. But compared to the tail end of the American Le Mans Series, ALMS, where you could go on the Sunday of a race, and you were one of 20 people at Road America, and
Really?
it felt like it was totally empty.
Road America is also huge, so they could be scattered around. But
Right.
it felt like a ghost
you
town.
were, we were in the Audi corral with I think 12 cars. Oof. So it's something that seeing the striking increase in attendance is cool to see, because it means that good things for the longevity of the series.
Yeah, racing as a whole, if you take all of motorsport all over the place, is not in the healthiest state, but there are a couple of bright spots. Series that are actually on the rise, where others are in massive decline, and IMSA is one of them.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to see. So when we say endurance racing, what we mean by that is the races are long enough where you actually need more than one driver per car.
Yes.
Which is something kind of unique about endurance racing. Now, actually, a lot of these races are shorter than NASCAR races, but endurance racing is bred off of the true endurance classics, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 12 Hours of Sebring, 24 Hours of Daytona, races like that, where one person just physically cannot do it. So they keep that framework for the entire series. Even if the race is 3 hours or less, you're required to run a minimum of 2 drivers in your car.
Or sit in the pits.
Or sit in the pits.
In the case of some of them, if you don't have a second driver, you drive into the pits and stop your car and park for a little while.
And just sit there.
Yep.
In order to emulate how much time it would take to make a driver change on average. They just have to sit there. Actually, sometimes it's kind of funny, the driver gets out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
talks to the crew for
While
a
I'm
couple of
sitting in
minutes,
there.
Has a water bottle.
has a water bottle under his helmet, and then just jumps back in and goes.
Triangle-shaped sandwich.
Triangle
Triangle-shaped sandwich.
Yeah. So that's just some of the ways that IMSA is unique. I think another thing that you guys we can speak to that is cool about IMSA is the access that the fans get.
Yes.
Every ticket's a pit pass.
Mm-hmm.
You get on the property, you can basically go wherever you want, unless it's the hot pits during a race.
Right.
But and I think Andrew, you can probably speak to that a little bit, because this was kind of your first taste of racing at all when we took you to one at Road America, and the fact that we could get so up close, I think, really made it more engaging, right?
Yeah, definitely. there's something about the overall atmosphere at an IMSA race that's very intoxicating. And I think to start, as someone who had never been to any kind of racing before we went to the first race at Road America, there's something about seeing recognizable silhouettes on the grid that you really just can't beat.
Yeah, we talked about in previous episodes all these racing video games, and you see things like 911s, you see things like, later on as they join together, you see things, like, the prototype cars. Those don't really, ring a bell, but right behind them, you've got these really recognizable silhouettes behind them. You've got 911s lurking, you've got Aston Martins. You've got all those things that you've seen in video games and stuff like that. That you're like, oh wow, yeah, they actually do race those, and you can see them. It's neat.
And that's that you actually see on the street too.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
the one thing to note there is that they are production based. Like the
Yes.
car begins its life before it gets fitted with a fuel cell and a roll cage and all those types of things. It rolls off the same assembly line as the cars that people can go and buy from a dealership.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not just a home built hot rod with a sticker that they end up calling stock cars.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're looking at some SCCA stuff, and I would say even then, probably almost none of those vehicles are stock any longer. But these are way closer.
They're closer to stock than that one stock car series is.
Exactly. Yep.
But the other thing is, in this, you get, because of that, because you have cars that are recognizable, because there's badge competition, being in person and seeing things like we were at Road America, what was it, 2 years ago, and it was Ford GT versus Ferrari, and then in the second to last corner, the Corvette gets them both. Like,
Yep.
one move gets them both.
Yep.
And you just don't... I don't think there's that kind of emotional attachment in a lot of other race series, but you can rep your brand if that's your thing to do, or you can pick a car that you like or a name that you like and cheer for that for the race, and you're going to have a great time.
And it's not just, and I think it might be because there is more than one driver per car. There's just too many drivers to maybe
Yeah.
keep straight.
Yeah.
People in IMSA or in any sports car racing, you go to WEC overseas or any of it, they cheer for a brand more than they cheer for a person.
Yeah.
I want the Corvettes to do well. I want the Aston Martin to do well. Like, who drives it? I don't know. I just want that car to do well. I want that thing on the top step of the podium.
Especially some of the big brands, they get drivers that stay around long enough that you become familiar with them.
Right.
And then when they really stick out, I think, like, for example, for me, Alan McNish he's got a huge personality, even if he's not that tall. And he sticks out as an interesting driver, but I was only introduced to him because I was a big fan of the Audi prototypes. That was the only reason I would know anything about him, is I was cheering for Audi.
Right. So, and another thing that's cool about it is you talk about these different silhouettes. It's not just a different silhouette. The technology in the cars are different.
Yeah.
A front-engine V8 Corvette is much different than now it's a mid-engine, but
Yeah, mid-engine.
the mid-engine flat six Porsche, which is different than the M8 BMW that they're racing now versus the Ford GT or the Ferrari. So they have a thing it's kind of a taboo word every now and again called balance of performance, to try to make sure that
Very, very controversial.
it is controversial. We're not going to really dig into that. That's really for the hardcores. But to try to make them all somewhat competitive with one another. But the thing of it is, you can see their lap times are similar, but they make their lap times in different ways.
Yes.
You get a long straightaway. Well, now you know the big Corvette V8 is going to thunder down that straightaway. You get into some more tight, twisty bits. That Porsche's pretty nimble, and anything it lost on that straightaway, it's going to make right back up before the lap is over. So it's very interesting to watch, because you kind of know, like, okay, that Porsche can get him here. Is he going to do it? Can he make it stick this time?
Yeah.
Like, it's a good anticipation thing.
Yeah, and because I can't help but go 1 week without plugging everybody's favorite local racetrack, that's why Road America is, I think...
They really need to pay us.
Road America is so interesting because you've got a complex series from Canada Corner all the way to the final corner, but then you've got a relatively long straight charge uphill to start finish. And so it's like, okay, who's going to win? Because you have examples of those two strengths right back to back.
Right.
And that's why you get interesting things like, oh, here comes the Corvette, things like that. It's, it's an interesting thing to watch because they've juxtaposed those two very well at Road America, and it's a great lesson in, how to make a race car win.
Well put, but this is not a Road America episode.
It's not. It's not.
So one other point kind of about the overall culture of IMSA before we really start digging into like the classes and whatnot, what we're going to be looking for. The IMSA culture is very much like it's so laid back. It's not like uppity and all this kind of stuff where like we mentioned the access, you can walk through the paddock. Usually, obviously Saturday's qualifying day, Sunday's race day, they might be pretty busy and pretty preoccupied. But if you can get out there on a practice day, you can walk up to the trailer, talk to a mechanic. If you see a driver, ask, and they're very, very open and responsive to this whole idea of letting us go everywhere. They actually welcome it. And then they let you on race morning. It's the grid walk. You get right on pit lane as the cars are on the grid. Right, like literally you leave, and 30 seconds later they say start your engines, and they actually go race. I mean, it's like the final minutes of preparation. You're right there next to them. They put on pit stop demonstrations with driver changes so people can get a closer look at that. I mean, it's just... And then with people on their brands, a lot of times, if you're an Audi fan and you're going to an IMSA race, you're going to drive your Audi to the track.
Yeah.
If you're a Corvette, same thing with a Corvette, with a Porsche. And it's a car show for the weekend, too. It's not just a race.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And that's half the fun. I mean, for example, something that, we, to a greater or lesser extent, enjoy depending on the situation and weather and everything else. But one of the things that
Refer back to episode 4, the good, the bad, and the Watkins Glen.
One of the things that is often done at these endurance races is camping with fewer or greater amounts of air quotes around it, all the way from people in, $40 Walmart tents all the way up to people in their, multi-$100,000, RVs set up by the plugins and everything. And part of that attraction is that you get to see things that you wouldn't normally see just by watching it on TV, and you get to see things that you won't see in a lot of other series necessarily.
Right.
We set up at Road America. We're there overnight, and at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, you hear impact wrenches going, and you're like, what are they doing over there? And if you want to,
You can go over and ask
you can go
them.
over and look.
Yep.
They're there all night long, and you'd be like, hey guys, we're camping. What are you guys up to? And you can go find that out at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, which is a very unique thing to endurance car racing.
Your alarm clock is usually an air gun or an engine firing up for opening practice the next morning at 8.
Corvette exploding directly across the front straight from you, for example. So, time to wake up.
So just the overall culture is very unique in IMSA, which makes us very much looking forward to it. But on the track, yet another cool thing about endurance racing is that there's multiple races going on at one time. They have one race, but there's 3 different classes of car in the race that all have different performance specs, top speeds, relative lap times, and the lower, slower class has no chance to catch or beat the top class prototypes. It's not going to happen. But they have their own little race. So not only are you trying to manage your own race, you're also going to be working in and out of traffic for 2 other classes who are running a completely separate race than you. They just happen to be on the track at the same time. So you want to just get into the classes here, guys?
Yeah. One thing I think that we were a little unclear about, each IMSA race weekend is broken up into several different events.
Yes, we're going to get into each event as well.
Right, but inside each event, they have classes, and they're so IMSA, the WeatherTech Championship is the top class with the fastest cars,
Most money.
The most money.
Yep.
So that
Most
has
big
its
names.
its own classes. It's 4,
3.
3 distinct classes. So I'll have Nick. He knows this. So Nick, you tell him.
Okay, so in the WeatherTech Championship, which is the premier series that we're going to see, there's 3 classes. The first is the prototypes. They're called prototypes for a reason. It's because they literally are pretty much one of a kind, or very few of a kind. It's not something that you can go to a dealership and you can buy. They are purpose-built race cars. Their top speed is, if they get to a track that's big enough, they can touch probably 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Very technologically advanced. This is the breadwinner. These are the ones that you see on the program, on the tickets, in all the advertisements. This is the big class. Within the prototype class, the past couple years now, what I think Mr. Atherton and his team did a great job to gain more manufacturer involvement is they introduced this concept called DPI, which is Daytona Prototype International. The Daytona Prototype part is kind of an homage to the old Grand Am series before the merge. But instead of having a manufacturer build its own car, chassis, engine, frame all the way up from the ground,
Which is all very expensive. To just build one.
super expensive. A manufacturer like a Nissan or a Mazda or General Motors by way of Cadillac can partner with a company that already builds the car. So the car is there, the tub is there, all that, the aero, the wind tunnel testing has been done. But now let's throw our engine in the back and let's work on the aero cues, the design of the car, to make it look more like a Cadillac or a Nissan or a Mazda. So you have a direct, essentially a factory team, a manufacturer team for a fraction of the cost of what a manufacturer would have to do if they wanted to build a car from the ground up.
Yeah.
And it is the initial interest was just huge. Cadillac has 4 cars out there. They're partnered with the Dallara chassis, and they threw their own aero bits and a General Motors engine in the Dallara to make the Cadillac DPI. Nissan is there with 2 cars from Extreme Speed Motorsports. They partnered with Onroc, which is the Ligier chassis. Mm-hmm. And then Mazda with Riley. And then they partnered also with Yost Racing, which ran your Audi program for the longest time.
The Audi Sport Team Yost.
They're now Mazda Sport Team Yost.
Yes.
And then lastly we have, Acura. Mm-hmm. Racing juggernaut Team Penske brings Acura in by partnering with Orica, another chassis maker. And you've got this DPI category, which is obviously manufacturer-based pro drivers, but then you also have what's called the P2 spec within the prototypes, and those are just the Ligier chassis, the Riley chassis, the Dallara chassis, without any aero bits. It's just the base model, essentially. And those are available to run as well, and a lot of those are the privateers. They don't have a lot of manufacturer support, but it's just, someone like you and me who has a lot of cash and wants to go racing, they can get one of those chassis and hire a couple drivers and give it their best shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll partner with any of the provided chassis manufacturers, and you'll find somebody.
Gibson engines.
Yep,
everybody runs a Gibson engine.
Yeah, so find somebody to do your, suspension setups and stuff like that, and then they do run a spec engine for it.
So that's your prototype class. That's the quickest class. The next class down is going to be what they call GT Le Mans, or it's also a GTE spec silhouette car. Now, these are the ones that look like what you're going to buy at a dealership. Corvette is there with 2 cars. Ford is there with their GT with 2 cars. BMW, this is their first season with the new M8. Porsche is there as well. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing the Risi Competizione Ferrari. They are skipping this event, but they're doing the big endurance ones only, I guess.
Well, most of the time when Risi skips, they don't have a car to race.
Yeah.
I think this time they actually have a car to race, but they're just saving it.
Yeah.
They do a little bit of crashing.
They do have a lot of bad luck. But anyway, folks, these are the ones. Literally, the team managers work in the corporate offices of these companies. This is not like a separate race shop somewhere. Corvette Racing's decisions all come out of General Motors towers in Detroit. Again, they find the best drivers, pay them the most money, and these are the cars that you will see racing also the same platform in the World Endurance Championship, and more importantly, the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yep.
Coming up here in like a month or so, 50 or so days. That's coming up.
Yeah, and Nick, I mean, it used to be for ALMS. I don't know. When asked, did they keep the fact that some of the winners of the larger races in some of these top classes, like the prototypes and the GT Le Mans, they get the automatic invites to Le Mans? I know it was used to be petite only. Would get like the winner of that would get an automatic invite to the big boy Le Mans in France.
I believe, don't quote me on it, if anybody out there is a huge sports car fan like us and knows this answer, reach out, let us know for sure. I believe if you win your season championship, you get an invite to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Prototypes, it's a little bit different now with this DPI category because those aren't legal to race at Le Mans.
Right.
So if a DPI champion would want to go, they'd have to get a regular P2 chassis to go do it. an added expense. Do you want to buy whole nother car to go do one race?
Right.
Even if it is Le Mans, but for GTLM for sure, the category I was just mentioning, whoever wins this season championship here in IMSA, they get essentially a golden ticket to run the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2019.
Yeah.
So huge stakes.
Yeah.
Huge stakes.
Yep.
Some of them are invited anyway. Corvette's going to be there regardless.
Yep.
Right.
Because they're just such a fan favorite.
Yeah, and we can cover the whole 24 Hours of Le Mans, but kind of explain what we're talking about invites and stuff. It is not necessarily something that is a set structure, like this person will automatically go, this person will automatically not go just based on certain things, although, as I mentioned, winners and stuff kind of get that nod, but the Auto Club l'Ouest, the ACO, ACO is like a private group that basically just runs the 24 Hours Le Mans and provides kind of sanctioning and rules assistance for other things. And they actually, say you get to come and race with us or you don't, and it's an invite only thing. For example, I believe 1 year at the very back in the kind of experimental section, we were mentioning the Delta Wing in one of our spark plugs.
Yes,
And
the Nissan Delta Wing.
The Delta Wing ran at Le Mans as an invitation, even though they weren't really going to be all that competitive. They said, hey, we want to see this here. Come and race with us. It's all done by invitation.
I don't even think it was. I think it was in its own class. It was
it
like
had
the
its own
invitational class, just by itself. But it was there.
I think what you're saying is that there are stakes to these races.
Yes.
Yep, and it's who gets and I like Nick's phrase, who gets the golden ticket.
So the GT Le Mans, the third and final class in the WeatherTech Championship is what they call GT Daytona. These are based on the GT3 spec platform of cars, which is, again, silhouettes. They look just like a car you're going to buy coming off an assembly line somewhere. The difference between this and GTLM is power is restricted a little bit, and a lot of it is aerodynamic. The straight line speed isn't that much different, but the GTD cars, or GT3 spec, is going to have to brake a lot sooner. You have to carry a lot less corner speed.
Downforce ride height.
Downforce and ride height, for sure.
You can when they're sitting next to each other, you can see them. One of them looks notably higher.
The GTLM is very much squattier.
Yeah.
Cool thing about this division is it is a Pro-Am division. And what they mean...
I got dreams, Nick. I got dreams.
We all have dreams. And I think a lot of people listening have dreamt of this at one time. And another awesome thing about endurance racing is that you can make that dream a reality if you have enough resources. So it's Pro-Am. So there will be one professional driver in the car, and his partner may not necessarily be another pro. It might just be a doctor or a lawyer or a business owner of some kind, some successful person who has a passion for motorsports and happens to be pretty quick, so this team decides to put them in the car. So they're 9 to 5. They don't make money racing cars.
They are often referred to as gentleman drivers.
Right, for sure. So you can go run your law practice during the week or run your dental practice or manage your business. A lot of business owners use it as an advertising write-off. Mm-hmm. They come in and say, hey, I'll sponsor this team if you put me in the car. And now that's advertising dollars for the business. Mm-hmm. So it all kind of, cycles back together, comes full circle. And yeah, these guys can just go race on the weekends. And look, it's not just like you're going out to your local track days. Like, these guys are serious. They put in a lot of time and effort. All these teams, even though they're Pro-Am, they want to win. So they want to make sure they don't have a slouch in the car. So these guys are very, very quick, but they are not, by definition, professional racing drivers. Right. Which is just fantastic. It leads to some, Andrew, you had mentioned this before we turned the mics on, it leads to some interesting scenarios if the conditions change.
It definitely can. I mean, there are moments where the fact that some classes are Pro-Am becomes very noticeable.
Readily apparent.
No, but the thing is that even though we just talked about these races have implications for what might be the most popular and most well-known race in the whole world, there is something to be said for the fact that it's really cool that normal people, more or less normal people,
quote-unquote normal individuals
who happen to be wealthy, can race in this series along with the best sports car drivers in the whole world.
Right. Right. Wasn't there? There was that one race at Road America where there was a dent. It was
It was won by a dentist.
a dentist from Florida now has a first place top step of the podium IMSA trophy on his secretary's desk at his practice down
Yeah,
in
I
Florida.
love it.
Like, how cool is that? That is so amazing. I love that about
So
IMSA.
that's just one race series or one race that we're talking
We
about.
spent how
here.
many minutes talking
Yeah.
about just one?
And it's not even the one that I really like.
I'm going to let Andrew take this one. I've been talking a ton. Andrew, what else is racing that weekend?
Well, my personal favorite is the, I guess, B side, if we want
AAA,
to call it that.
minor league.
The minor league of the WeatherTech. So that's called the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. And I like this one because it's all cars that you would see on the street. And in fact, more than that, it's all cars that were purchased from a lot.
Right,
yes.
Yeah, you go up to the window of the car, and there's the center stack. It's all, torn to shreds because they don't need a radio, but it's there. This is the car that you could buy.
The gauges in the dashboard are probably the stock ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
For example.
You could still roll down a window.
Yeah.
They have trunks and, all that
Which
stuff.
is often hilarious.
It is
Because
funny.
trunks, in a racing environment, folks, trunks do not always stay closed.
It can be a really big spoiler. But this is definitely my favorite series. And while I don't know anything about the implications of it, what I do know is that a lot of people... This whole series Pro-Am? Everything in this?
It's
is Pro-Am, right?
every category is Pro-Am in
Yeah,
this one.
so this is a series where you can actually see year to year and sometimes even event to event drivers, whether they qualify with time or qualify with skill, literally move up the classes or move up between teams. And what their end goal is, it doesn't necessarily matter. You can watch the drivers get better and better and better. And it's so unique to see that.
And this series usually has the hardest racing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It is the wildest race of the weekend, usually.
I think it's because they're using, although we mentioned some of the silhouette cars in the main WeatherTech series, they're based on production cars, but these are production cars. If you wreck it, just go buy a new one. Like, so I think, or take it to a body shop and have them patch it up. It's not something that it's like, okay, well, now we need to take this thing back to the wind tunnel because you messed up some finicky bit of aerodynamics. It's something that's much more kind of rough and ready racing that's available to just really, you see some remarkable things.
And it is. It's almost. This is like the highest level of every man's
Yes.
racing. Like, there's that one. I think it's like sponsored by Invisible Glass. There's that Aston Martin.
Yeah.
They probably had the same car for 6 years.
Yeah.
It rolls up.
Forever.
It doesn't roll up on a flatbed, and they just have an easy up. Like,
Yeah, they don't even have like a trailer to keep it inside of, and they regularly do okay.
Okay.
Another one of our favorites, the poor abused minis.
Right.
They,
Actually, I was going to just read the 2018 field just for
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
read
let's
them
do that.
off.
In the GS class.
Are we gonna go through the classes real quick, or do you want?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, do that.
So
Explain
we'll
that
go a class, and then you'll read the entries. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, that'd be
All right, here
great.
we go. So the top class again, 3 classes, 3 races going on at one time in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. The fast class is the GS class. These are now going over to the GT4 global platform. And when we say global platform, like GT3 and GT4, you may have to change the type of tires you put on it depending on the response to the series, maybe some different engine restrictions, but you can take the same car and race it anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So GT4 is a step below, obviously, GT3, a little bit slower, a little bit less aero, and that makes up the GS class. Who's in the GS class?
So this is just for this one class. You have Aston Martin V8 Vantage, Mercedes AMG, their GT4, so that's based off the
GT3.
the GT3. Porsche Cayman, Ford Mustang, Audi R8, BMW M4. What do we also got? McLaren, the 750S, Ford
yes.
Mustang. I mean, that's all in one class. So all these cars with completely different layouts, completely different technology, race against each other.
And they're bought off a lot.
Yeah.
This is a big field. Sorry, this is
Now,
first time
what's
looking at
the car count has got to be in the 20s, just for one class.
Yeah, let me look.
It is a very busy race.
While you count, I'll talk about the next class.
Yeah, 21.
There you go, 21. The next class, and I'm going to touch on it real quick because it's being phased out. This is the last year they're running it. Starting in 2019, the Continental Tire Series will be a 2-class series. This year, the last year for the street tuners. These are the little itty bitty ones. Mazda Miatas.
Yep.
Tristan's aforementioned minis, the poor minis.
Poor minis.
I think there's Andrew, read them off. What do you got?
Well, this
it's
year-
a small class.
We'll be interested, the three of us at this table, will be interested to know there's actually 3 minis running this year. So
Oh,
that's
nice.
at least 2 colossal accidents.
one extra wrecking ball.
Two colossal accidents and 1 engine explosion.
I mean, we have seen some hilarious things with these minis, but everyone knows what a Mini Cooper looks like. They're racing those against Porsche Caymans, and in this case, a BMW. A BMW 3 Series. So they're these tiny little, I mean, they really are just wrecking balls ping-ponging around the track, and it's so awesome. It's just the best.
It's great. So that class is being phased out, and the one I think we want to spend a little time on is the new one that they brought in for this year, which is called the TCR class. Again, a new global platform. TCR has been around in Europe for, I think, like 2 years now.
It's been a little while.
A couple of seasons, but they're really starting to gain some traction here. And IMSA decided, as the sanctioning body for this Continental Series also, we're going to bring these over and make a class for it. So what type of cars are we going to see in TCR?
So this year in IMSA, they have the Audi RS3 TCR, which we happened to see at the announcement conference.
Yeah.
It looks fabulous.
It's very
amazing.
angry looking.
Yeah. A Volkswagen Golf GTI.
I think that's it.
There is one Alpha.
There is one Alpha.
Huh.
So the Alfa Romeo is in there. There are other manufacturers making these cars,
Well, I should
too.
say, they're just looking a little further into this. There may be one Alpha because it lists the car here and the team, but they only have one driver. So they may not have a fully fleshed out team.
I think I should bring my helmet along.
Yeah, there you go.
And for your
Look for BAM. Look for the BAM tent.
The BAM tent, and we can take some of our Check Engine Podcast stickers.
That's right.
Like-
That's
Hey,
right. We're
we'll
sponsoring
sponsor you.
ourselves.
We try to get someone to put a bump on the car. That'd be great.
That would be hysterical. But yes, anyway.
Yeah. Sorry. If I could just go and say, I really am excited about the potential of the TCR class because, like you mentioned, it's a world standard. So other places around the world and other championships, even ones that come here, Pirelli is the one that immediately comes to mind.
Pirelli World Challenge.
They already race TCR class cars. So IMSA jumping on this bandwagon, for lack of a better term, means that there's so much potential for this specific class, TCR class, to grow exponentially because that's what IMSA's doing. IMSA's growing. It's going to attract new companies, attract new race teams, and I think the TCR may be a really attractive class for them to slot into, well, especially a lot of
Tristan
people.
is so happy at the thought that
I'm crying.
he is crying.
You're openly weeping right now.
No,
What
it's
is
just-
happening?
No, it's just something. It's literally something in my eye. It's not an excuse, but
I think
no,
it's the beauty.
I think
yeah,
it's the beauty of the potential.
we'll go with that. But I think the real beauty of it is when you look at. Do you have a list of the potential cars? I mean, I know we've got at least some of them.
I got them.
And like go through those
He's
quick
got 'em,
because
yeah.
I think I've got a point to make about them.
So you mentioned Audi, VW, and Alfa.
Yes.
Hyundai is racing in Pirelli World Championship already with theirs.
I know.
The i30, correct?
Correct.
Honda has the Civic Type R.
Yep, that real time.
Real Time Racing is doing also in Pirelli World Challenge. There's rumors that Ford was going to do one, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Who knows anymore?
Who knows anymore with Ford? We'll get to that later. I know Seat has one over in Europe that they're running.
yep.
Represent.
Represent.
So, and that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the initial offering in the first
Yeah.
couple of years, and there's already, what do we list off there, 7 manufacturers?
Yeah, where I'm going with that is, you have things like Alpha and Audi, a little bit higher up in kind of the sports sedan kind of department, but a lot of these cars are cars that, although they might require a little bit of saving, are definitely within reach of younger people. And,
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
it may be again another episode that we touch on later. About how how are we going to keep racing alive? But we've noted that these IMSA races in particular are doing rather well. And I think it's because they're doing things like that. I think they're bringing in recognizable brands for younger people. You've got Hyundai, you've got VW, you've got Honda, the Type R, and I think that's I've seen my coworker just bought a GTI.
I was just gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
The 23-year-old kid at his entry-level job, just after getting his degree, drives to work every day in a Hyundai. He can
Yeah.
take that Hyundai to the track and watch a Hyundai race.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Which is new. I mean,
Yes.
the big three, they've always been racing in this country, but a lot of the things that come over from other countries are, higher level brands, and that I think the TCR class internationally, not just here, is a big time entry. Big names. You're running in FIA sanctioned stuff overseas. You're running in IMSA stuff sanctioned here. Big arenas for some of these. Not smaller car makers, but more everyman car makers to really get into racing, and I think that's exciting.
Another reason why this class, I think, can explode is the cost-saving measures that
Yes.
this was originally designed around. If I remember right, they have a rule in this class where you, unless there needs some major repair, some catastrophic failure, the engine's supposed to run all year.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, minus any damage, impact, etc. But yeah,
So, I mean, that's huge cost savings for these guys. As affordable can be.
it's still racing.
It's still racing, so it's still more
costs money.
expensive than I can afford.
Man, we're yammering on and on about the top two, and we got like no time left to get to.
Well,
to get to-
at least the other ones are relatively simple. And
That's
this is one of our favorites. We're going to spend some time on it. But I would say
Yeah, let's touch on the other ones. We got two other series racing. All the variety we just talked about in the first two.
this is
The exact opposite.
not that.
The exact opposite. We have the Porsche GT3 Cup.
Which is all Porsche 911s. All of them.
They're all GT3s, in fact.
In fact, narrow that down even further.
And we also have the Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Yeah.
Andrew, what runs in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo?
Porsche 9. No, it's Lamborghinis. Every car a Lamborghini. And let me tell you, I love it. I think it's the best.
It's a fun class to watch. They're beasts.
They're shockingly fast.
They're
in a straight
shockingly
line.
fast, high horsepower, not very smooth. You really got to wrestle them around.
Yeah.
They start on fire sometimes.
And they start on fire
Yep,
sometimes.
when impacted hard enough, the carbon fiber bursts into flames.
And a cool thing about a spec
exciting.
series, you talk about the variety of the other series. A cool thing about a spec series is that there's no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally on the drivers and the teams too to get a proper setup. But this is where a lot of the drivers really make themselves known because they're racing against people in the same equipment. And if you
Yep.
can do really well and dominate, now these people in the IMSA series are probably going to be knocking at your door or giving you a phone call pretty soon.
Yep. We mentioned the off-maligned BOP in the main IMSA series, that we have to deal with a lot, but you don't really have that in the spec series. A lot. It's the direct antithesis of there are lots of different ways that race cars make speed. In this, there's only one, and I think that's a key point is that when you do well in a spec series, that means you are actually better than the other people racing. Versus you haven't gotten lucky with a choice of ride. The tracks that the series have gone to this year haven't been particularly kind to your car versus other people. Heavy cars do better in the rain, things like that. None of that comes into account. It's just I am a better driver because I drove the same car you did and I did better.
Yep, it's that simple.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to all of it. I'm a
Yeah.
junkie, so I find great things in all of them. So, do we have enough time even to touch on the track?
Oh yeah, we've got a few minutes. One quick interjection about the GT3 Cup. Something that me personally I enjoy quite a bit about it. They are attempting to go green in a lot of racing now, and one of the most applicable things that we're seeing is actually the tires in that series.
Oh, that's right.
They use natural latex rubber with orange oil to make it soft enough to ever use in a tire, and these are all made by
Yokohama.
as they say over the PA, and they're actually selling those tires now. They weren't. They put them on the race cars, said, "Wow, these can really work," and now they're selling them that you can just buy them.
I didn't know that. They finally made it to production.
It's pretty
That's
cool,
sweet.
yeah.
And they smell great.
Yeah, they smell like burnt oranges. But anyway, to bring it back to why we are talking about all these various cars that go around a track, you need a track to put them on. So we are going to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And Nick, you have a couple more basic, vitals for us on the track?
It's been around a while. Opened in 1962. 2.3 miles, so it's pretty compact for a road course. That's not a lot of space. 13 turns. I see Andrew's got the map open. I see one pretty long straightaway where there's going to be some braking zones there at the end, and that'll probably be a pretty good action spot. From what I hear, and I've watched races on TV from there, and you see it on TV, but I guess the elevation changes there are pretty extreme, which means that if you get a good spot kind of on higher ground, you might be able to see at 2.3 miles an awful lot of this place in one spot.
Sure.
We'll obviously put this all to the test when we get there. We'll find out.
Yeah,
but-
we'll see. We'll see. Andrew, you did notice one concerning thing about fire on the map?
I did. I'm looking at the map here just to get to lay of the land, and they have all the stuff you would expect: the pond, the false grid. They have a pond. Sorry, that's very interesting to me. But the paddocks and the various gate areas and souvenir stands, blah blah blah. They also have gas pumps because every racetrack
Needs a gas pump.
But they have something labeled fire right next to it, and I would keep the fire further away from the gas pumps if I were designing a racetrack.
But if it were my choice, that would be further away.
It's been around a while, though, so, that could have been the way they did it back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't been there before, but we can think of one way to improve before we even show up at the gate. Any interesting corner names we've got going on here, and besides just turn 1, turn 2, turn whatever?
They actually don't have them labeled, but from the start-finish line, I'm looking here, there's this, it would be a dog leg, but it's basically just a loop out on the track called the Keyhole, which looks kind of interesting in terms of racing.
Yeah.
Then they have the S's, whatever, Copying Road America, it's fine. Thunder Valley, whatever.
Copying Road America.
What I said,
Yeah,
the
the S's.
Carousel, whatever, the Copy Road America, it's fine, whatever.
The
And that's we're back at the start-finish.
the S's
It's
is
a quick lap.
yeah, S's is Road Atlanta too.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose no one has a trademark on that one, but Carousel.
That's
That's
got to
on-
be us.
yeah.
That's got to be Road America. Notice how I said us there?
Yeah.
Is that bad?
No, it's presumptuous.
in your heart.
but it's not bad.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, IMSA Series, the WeatherTech Championship, the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge, Porsche GT3 Cup, Lamborghini Super Trofeo. By the way, they're fitting all of this in, practice, qualifying, and racing in 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
So
Normally a 4-day affair for most of the ones we've been to.
There are only
sometimes
2 support races, though, so... Don't we normally have 3?
Well, Continental Tire is considered a support race.
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
So, yes,
it's-
3.
Yeah, but it's something that normally it's a 4-day process. Thursday to Sunday for the most part. And nope, we're putting it all into 3 days. It's going to be action packed, which
8 a.m. to 7 p.m. There will
Yep.
be nonstop for 3
which
straight
should
days.
provide immense amounts of entertainment for all of you fine people. Again, as Nick mentioned, we will be live. There will be photos that may be the first traditionally accepted use of our Instagram page
Yeah.
versus reposting things from our Facebook albums. But look for all of that stuff. And
Live
it's gonna
videos.
be coming thick and fast because
What
we're
if we
gonna
could
have
snag
all
an
day.
interview with somebody? That'd be kind of fun.
That would
That'd be fun.
Great.
Yeah.
With all the paddock access, just walking around
Who's
on a
going to be
Friday.
Nick? Just look it up.
I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it
We'll
out.
find some. We'll find somebody. So, folks, stay tuned because this episode is coming out, pretty much right away. 7 days from now, we are going to be at the track,
Yes.
and it cannot come soon enough. The first
gonna be
official,
so good.
the first
It's time.
official Check Engine Podcast field trip is going to be amazing. We got enough time for thank yous. Are we going to wrap this
Oh
up?
yeah,
or-
definitely. Yep.
Anybody got any Do we need to wrap up? We got anything else we got to say, or
I think we're in pretty good shape.
we covered it?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
covered what we wanted to cover.
Just don't rain on us the whole time, Ohio. And if anyone knows what you eat or do in Ohio that's not Skyline chili, I'm not interested in that, please let us know.
Yeah. None of us have ever really spent any significant amount of time in Ohio.
Spent a lot of time near Ohio,
Driving through
Through Ohio.
Yeah.
Driving around Ohio.
but never in. I've been to Sandusky, but that was at an amusement park where you eat amusement park food. I don't know what you actually eat in Ohio.
Is it like a signature Ohio dish that
See,
we should try?
that's exactly what I'm looking for. And I know they have basically meat on spaghetti.
If
but
you were
I'm
to
not
ask,
interested
if you were
in
to
that.
ask my former roommate, I'm sure he would say it's pierogi.
Okay, that is interesting to me.
Okay.
If there's a
So,
good pierogi
we'll-
spot.
We'll find
listen.
out.
We'll find out. We'll report back.
Yep.
We're going to report everything we
We'll
find.
take Instagram food pictures.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
No.
Filter that shit.
Count me out.
Whatever.
Count me out
Hater.
with your food pictures. So we're heading to Ohio, and we're psyched. That's the bottom line.
I'm ready for racing season. Let's do it.
Let's do
It's
it.
been cold and snowy and rainy, and now it's time for race cars.
Which might still be rainy, but
But
Whatever.
there
It'll
will be race
okay.
there'll be cars on track, so it's always better. It's always better.
All right.
Who are we thanking?
I just want to preemptively thank Mid-Ohio because we're coming there to see racing, and no matter what, it's going to be great. Look at this track map. That's great. Look at they got all the flags up there. That's great. They got fire and gasoline. That's great. Let's do it.
Got a remarkably optimistic thank you from him today.
I hear this from you.
I would like to thank the oft maligned Porsche 911. It's the butt of a lot of jokes, but it's also the reason a lot of people race. They bought one because they thought it was what they needed to do when they had a lot of money. And they said, hey, wait, these things go on racetracks too. And then there's good racing for us to watch. And I appreciate that.
There you go. I would actually like to thank the designer of Mid-Ohio who put the fire right next to the gas pumps.
Guaranteed excitement week by week.
Because that person is fearless, and I respect that. And I'm sure if I were to sit down and have dinner with this guy or girl, they would have stories for days.
Absolutely.
It'd be one of the most interesting conversations ever. So thank you, sir or ma'am, who designed this track that way. And of course, we'd always want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in, giving us your time. Please reach out via social, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our direct email, inbox at checkenginepodcast.com. Ask us questions for our questions only episode. Give us some feedback. Give us your opinions on past or current episodes. If you haven't listened to them all and need something to give opinions on, you can find us on Google Play, iTunes. Our home base is anchor.fm/checkenginepodcast. We're on Pocket Casts, Overcast, Spotify, and what's the new one?
I gotta keep looking it up. It's a name that I don't remember very easily. However, it is
We're getting so...
Radio Public.
Radio Public. We are also on Radio Public. Shout out to them. Thank you for carrying us. We're getting so big we can't even remember where we're at.
Yeah.
We're broadcasting us anymore.
We got problems.
We're eventually just gonna have to say everywhere. Where you can find a podcast, find us.
First world problems. Always also checkenginepodcast.com. Thank you again so much for tuning in and for your support. Even if we suck, you guys are always awesome. We cannot wait to talk to you guys live from Mid-Ohio. We'll see you soon.
We're going to Ohio!